Bureau, the official podcast of the International UFO Bureau. Founded in 1957 and reimagined for today, we're fusing decades of discovery with next-gen tech to uncover the truth about unidentified anomalous phenomena. Join Executive Director Teri Lynge-Kehl, CEO Mindy Tautfest, and Director of Research Melissa Madrigal. 3 generations, 1 mission: to investigate the unknown and bring the truth into focus. This is the Bureau.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bureau, where 3 generations of women come together to discuss the truth behind unidentified anomalous phenomena. I'm your host, Mindy Tautfest, and I'm joined by my 2 beautiful co-hosts, Miss Teri Lynge-Kehl and Miss Melissa Madrigal. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. Good. Good to be here.
Yes, I have been waiting to do this show, and I know I say I'm excited about every show, but I really am excited about this one because we're going to be focusing on honoring Hayden Hewes and remembering him and his contribution to ufology. He was the original founder of the Bureau back in 1957, and so this episode is going to be all about Hayden and introducing all of our followers and our audience to all the amazing things he was doing way back when. So hold on. Kevin, if you'll roll a clip.
He may have more information on that subject than anyone in the country. He's the former head of the International UFO Bureau, and tonight he tells us how his life's work may hold the answers.
We put together an organization to scientifically look into UFOs.
It was called the International UFO Bureau. That was 48 years ago. Hayden Hewes was 13. Since then, he's amassed a library of information.
All the radio and television I've done over the years hasn't been to prove. It's been to get people to approach the subject with an open mind.
Through his bureau, he correlated UFO sightings and reports from all over the world into a centralized data bank. A teenage curiosity became a life's work, culminating in his research into the cult Heaven's Gate.
They said they were the 2 witnesses in Revelation chapter 11 to show that death could be physically overcome.
20 years before the mass suicide in 1997 that grabbed international headlines, Hewes was writing books on Heaven's Gate and Herf Applewhite.
When they left me the first time, I shook their hand. They turned 2-3 feet away. I turned back to look at them, and they were gone. We were in the middle of a block. They didn't get in a car. They didn't walk to the corner. The hair on the back of my hand stood right straight up in the air.
Hewes believes Applewhite could have been the alien people have described numerous times as standing near UFOs. It's one of the things Hewes believes has led to a wider acceptance of his work. That and this correspondence from President Jimmy Carter, in which Carter describes his own close encounter.
More scientists are coming forth and are willingly associating their name, where they didn't in the early years. You were a crackpot, a kook.
And that's an image Hewes wants to dispel. He says he's just a normal guy looking for answers.
Maybe we are a genetic experimentation. I don't know. I just know we're here seeing and experiencing something.
Well, for all he's done, Hewes says he has only seen a UFO once, but he says he would like to see his work end by boarding a UFO and taking off to find the answers he has spent a lifetime searching for. Well, a world-famous Oklahoma landmark launches a restoration project. Signs went up at the TP.
That was great.
I know, a little intro to Hayden and some of his major works during the span of the Bureau. And it looks like that was filmed some years after he had probably taken a step back. But all of those things you see in that video, a lot of them are right here on my wall, and they're in our archives, which, Melissa, I know you have been working diligently to get all sorted out. How's that process going?
You know, there's a lot of files to go through. When we finally get this public, it's going to be very exciting. We're probably looking closer to the beginning of the year, and then we will get it out to the public to finally be able to look through.
Right. How awesome. I'm excited because I have physically gone through all of the archives, sorting it to put it into folders and getting it ready to be digitized, but I didn't have time to read every word. So
Oh,
once
right.
we have it available, I'm actually going to be digging through and reading every word. I read probably 40% of them. And so I was able to say, this looks very important, or this seems to be tied to this or that. But
Yes.
what you're doing is an incredible job. You and Sam Sheridan both are working through it, and I can't wait for the public to have access to it and be able
Me
to look.
too. I have even my own going through it. I've had my own personal flyer while I go, oh, that's a good one. We're going to save it. We're going to save it in my computer.
Yep,
Go back another day and bring that up again.
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
So
Boy, yeah,
let's
he really
start
was
this.
a leader. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just saying he really was the leader. When you think he started, like they said, at 13 years old, he was brilliant. He was dedicated. He was very loyal to this. Started out like a hobby, but it just took off. And scientific studies was his focus. He wasn't looking for the woo ha ha. He was looking for the real deal and what was truth. And he, unlike anybody else, he was just so driven at that time. That's 1957. We are
Yeah.
literally the oldest UFO organization in the world. And he had brought so much to it and structured it in a way that it started off being scientific. And to this day, the research is still scientific. So I'm so proud of him. I'm just so proud of what he's done and what you've done too, Mindy, how you've taken so much of this and just run with it. And all of the people within the Bureau are just really dedicated, very loyal and dedicated. And we're really blessed. It was like divine appointment coming together.
It was.
Like maybe you
Everyone,
wanted that.
we're all friends. Like, we don't have bickering and infighting and stuff like some groups may, but most of us we actually talk each day, and we like each other. And so that helps breed an environment where we can share ideas and build on what other people have discovered together. Hey, you notice this? I notice this that goes with it. And so we're just moving forward every day. So let me go ahead and jump in. I want to start this episode with a couple of questions posed to the audience, and that way they can be answering and we can be talking back and forth with them throughout the episode. So question number one for the audience is, what do you think drove ordinary citizens in the 1950s to start investigating UFOs on their own? Or let us know question two. Do you think the UFO stories from the 1950s and 60s still hold clues that can help us understand what's happening today? I know what I think about those. Definitely question two. I have strong feelings on.
Yeah.
Like we were just talking about, going through the archives, there is so much I'm learning from Hayden still today. And Melissa, I know you've come across things that actually relate back to things that he was talking about back in the 60s.
Yes, we do. We've got a lot of active things today that definitely connect to the things that he was investigating. And I think that once we kind of get everything archived and squared away, that once we go back in there, we're gonna be able to connect some good dots.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, let's go ahead and switch up. I know there was a couple of UFO incidents, or there was a big UFO incident here within the last week. Teri, you brought this to my attention. So, Melissa, why don't you tell us about a couple of the historic cases and what happened this week?
Yes. Okay. On the night of November 4th, 1957, two tower controllers at Kirkland Air Force Base in Albuquerque spotted a glowing white object moving low across the airfield. Through binoculars, they described it as a vertical, elongated egg shape with a single light at the base. The object hovered near the runway, then silently across the airfield at a low altitude, just a dozen feet off the ground. Radar picked it up briefly before it accelerated and disappeared. Officially, the investigation labeled it as a possible misidentified aircraft. But here's the thing. The investigating team was Project Blue Book, And the witnesses were professionals, trained observers, and the object's behavior didn't match anything conventional. Even decades later, this sighting is still sitting in that gray zone, technically unexplained and never really resolved. It's a reminder that some of the most important sightings don't always happen in the sky, they happen right over the runway. And that sometimes an investigating team is Project Blue Book, and like many of their files, this one was quietly closed and never truly solved.
Yeah, that was very interesting. And you know, that particular vehicle or craft, let's call it, has been seen and reported many times. It's almost cloud-like. It's seen up in the sky and it's just hovering. And people say it looks like it goes into a cloud, but yet it's just so very bizarre looking, okay? Maybe like a Tic Tac, but much, much larger. So this is really an interesting case.
Yes, and Hayden, back to Hayden Hewes' archives, we've got a lot of Project Blue Book in there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So, yeah.
So you've got another one, right?
Yes, I have another historical case, and then we're going to go into the recent.
Okay.
A day later, on the evening of November 5th, 1957, only 200 miles west-southwest of Kirkland Air Force Base, a crew of 7 loggers were finishing their shift in the Apache National Forest in Arizona. As they drove down a remote road, they saw a bright light, glowing object hovering in the trees. It was metallic, silent, and low to the ground. One of the men, Travis Walton, stepped out of the truck to get a closer look. That's when the beam of green-blue light hit him square in the chest and threw him several feet back in the air. The rest of the crew panicked and drove off. When they returned several minutes later, Travis was gone. A massive manhunt followed. Police suspected foul play. News spread quickly, and then 5 days later, Travis reappeared confused, shaken, and with a story that changed everything. He claimed that he had been taken aboard a craft. He described strange beings, examination procedures, and waking up on the side of the road with no memory of how he got back. All 6 crew members passed their polygraph tests, and the case remains one of the most widely publicized and hotly debated abduction stories in UFO history.
Yes. And, you know, I know him personally. He's a great friend, very nice guy. And he's had those... what is that called when the lie detector test? He's had several of those over the years, many, and they have always all come out that he is telling the truth. He has never lied. The Hollywood movie that was made was not accurate. It was all full of fluff and lies. And what really happened to him was he was killed by the beam that he got too close to. They brought him aboard the ship and repaired him, literally healed him.
I've heard him say that.
From the dead. Now that's pretty interesting, okay? And somebody that would try to make a story up like that would have to literally be nuts for you to think that people would believe something like that, and they do say truth is stranger than fiction. And in this story of his, it truly is, because many times they've pointed out that UFOs are dangerous and they're going to kill us and they're going to do this and they're going to do that. But I just have to say that is not the case here. And personally, any of my experiences have always been very positive, and I've learned a lot. Not only has it opened my mind and allowed me to understand things I would have never taken a look at, never, because it just wasn't anything I was interested. But they wanted to reveal to me, they wanted to reveal to him, and they brought him back. He was not naked when he came back, but he did, in fact, go to that phone booth, which is the famous phone booth now. Yeah. And he did get in touch with his brother. And all of these things are just amazing. And when you sit with someone and you watch them go through all that they went through in experiencing that moment, it's not only bizarre, but it is almost impossible to wrap your mind around, because it's so other than anything that we could think up or imagine. And yet this was his testimony. So, man, I have to say that was a very wonderful bit of information that we gleaned from extraterrestrials, off-world, others, that have come to us, that they actually were very kind and considerate, I should say, wanting to heal him. Just amazing. And that was in 1975. There were so many things going on in the 70s. It was like there was a flap, from 70 to 79. My experience happened in my big one in 79, and so many others at that time. So obviously we say disclosure is coming, but they have disclosed themselves. They've brought disclosure to each one of us by the thousands upon thousands have actually seen and been chosen or sought out, because it was never anything I was looking for. And it certainly wasn't anything he was looking for. He was just getting off of work that day. So
Well, can you imagine the ontological shock? I know he had to go through counseling and stuff afterwards to cope with what had happened. To think that there's nothing out there, and to grow up being told that, to then all of a sudden know this is how it is. These things are real, and to be removed from your environment. I imagine it did take years and years of processing for him, but I am so thankful that he came forward. I know for people like me in Gen X, his story was a huge pivotal moment for those of us interested in UFOs, to hear from someone that had actually been aboard the craft and the things that he encountered over there. So anyways, we're almost 20 minutes in. I'm going to go back over to you, Melissa.
Moving right along.
So then we're going to go into our most recent story within the last few weeks here. Recently, something went down near the borders of Area 51, and the way it was handled gives us textbook example of how modern crash retrievals work. According to George Knapp, on the morning of October 24th, longtime researcher Yang Arnu, who monitors Area 51 radio traffic 24/7, heard serious chatter, quote, "We had an asset go down," end quote. But this wasn't Cheech Air Force Base talking. Creech, my apologies, Air Force Base talking. It was Area 51 security. Whatever crashed didn't go down on the base. It hit public land in Tikaboo Valley, right off of Highway 375 on the so-called ET Highway. When Arnu tried to reach the site, he was stopped by armed patrols, helicopters, and even military equipment building new roads into the desert. Porta potties were set up, roads were sealed off, and the entire valley was locked down. The official story? Creech Air Force Base said it was a drone crash, but Knapp's report says that something was off. After the initial response team came and went, the second wave showed up, this time with graders covering the entire site in thick dirt. Literally a cover-up. And then they planted decoy debris, including parts from an unrelated aircraft and even a training bomb, before claiming someone had tampered with the scene and the Air Force called in the FBI. The press release avoided even using the word crash, and just like that, the incident became classified chaos. But Arnu went back and found burn marks on Joshua trees 200 yards from the planted debris. He found real fragments buried beneath the covered layer. Not drone parts, not stage, but the kind of wreckage they didn't want seen. Some believe it was part of the Black Flag operation involving next-gen AI-piloted craft, autonomous drones capable of independent target tracking and response, a real-time test of autonomous air dominance that went wrong in plain sight, and it had to be buried. The kind of event that, if it had happened just a few miles deeper into restricted airspace, we would have never known about it. Now, here's what's strange. The crash actually happened on September 23rd, but we didn't hear about it until about a month later. Why the delay? Because this was a multi-phase cleanup. First responders, then dirt graders, then planted debris. The government didn't speak up until witnesses started talking, so they pivoted. Drone crash, training bomb, FBI tampering with investigation. That delay was not an oversight. It was a strategy.
Right. Absolutely. It was immediately covered up. And you would think they would have done that back in the days of Roswell, but they're still doing it today. And we should all, as investigators, be very upset about that when things happen, we can't hear about it. We have to thank God for George Arnu, that he heard it all and exposed it all. You know, he's a wonderful investigator and very dedicated, extremely dedicated, and loyal to this subject. So with his information, we were able to really get what happened, totally covered it up, and with plastics and things like that. Shame on them, you know, but anyway, the truth has a way of coming out every time.
Yes, it sure does. Hopefully we get some of those pieces into a lab and see what we can find.
Right, absolutely. Because like he said, there's always going to be something left behind. You can't get everything in a crash. You can't
We're still combing the fields of Roswell and finding things. So
exactly.
I'm glad that Arnu went back and picked through things and saw that there was stuff there. I wonder if NAP's getting them tested.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's so wonderful. Is this what someone, oh, John, I remember we thought it was lightning bouncing off the craft and an accident. And that was why they possibly decided to help him out. There you go.
Yeah, that's back to Travis Walton.
To Travis. Right. And the picture even that we showed was a picture that came out, but it was not a right picture because the guys weren't around when they saw him. You know, nobody watched him get beamed up. They took him up because they went right back to where it happened and he was not there. So he was taken up. So anyway, well, David Farris, who we had on for tonight, I'm not sure if we have some kind of
Kevin,
what's going on.
Do we have David?
No. Okay. So, well, I would like to talk about him nonetheless. He's a native Oklahoman, and he's communications graduate and the author of Mysterious Oklahoma. So he's kind of a history buff there for Oklahoma. More Mysterious Oklahoma and Oklahoma Outlaw Tales, a former president of Oklahoma City Writers Incorporated, and he's collected spooky stories and local history for decades, including documenting the life and work of Hayden Hewes. Farris has lectured widely and appeared on TV and radio, written for national magazines, and remains a key voice in preserving the early legacy of UFO research from the Sooner State. And there's his books right there. And I guess, do we have him on?
We do. We have David.
Oh,
We've had some technical issues leading up to this, so we weren't sure if he was going to be able to join us. But welcome, David.
yeah, welcome. Can you hear us? Maybe not. Okay, well, we do want to thank him for being here. And I don't know that it's going to work. I think he's trying to come in on his phone, but for some reason it's not coming out.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we'll let David and Kevin still work on it.
Yeah.
There you are, David. We hear you. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay,
So-
I'm not hearing anything. So let's play the clip. Let's see. A hearing. Hayden Hewes introduces the original IUFOB in his own words. What stands out most about his early vision? Let's just play that.
My name's Hayden Hewes, founder of the Interplanetary Intelligence of Unidentified Flying Objects, later name changed to International UFO Bureau, researching the subject of the paranormal and UFOs since 1957.
Wow. Isn't it great to just see him, you know?
It is.
I feel like his spirit is so strong that he's with us, just continuing to push this all forward.
Yes.
And we've discussed that before. When I was going through the archives and sorting things, I almost felt like Hayden was there with me. And I really wish that David was he wasn't having the technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Because David was a very dear friend of Hayden's, and he wrote about Hayden's life in several publications. And that's why we wanted to have David on here to kind of speak for David or speak for Hayden and give his memories of when Hayden was going through these things. But in that first clip there, Hayden's talking about the original name of the Bureau, and that's what they were going with when he was 13. So that's what he came up with, and then later changed it and shortened it to just International UFO Bureau. At first he was more sci-fi and looking at, interplanetary and whatnot. And so then it evolved into what we have today. But I think it's really cute to be able to look back and actually see his words and his thoughts, introducing the Bureau just as it was. So do we have David back?
I can't hear him. Okay. Well, we're trying. Thanks, Kevin. We appreciate that. But I guess we'll just go forward here talking about what we know about what he shared with us. Let's see, Mindy, did you want to talk about that clip that we were going to ask him about?
Well, let's back up. So I want to tell a little story that David had shared. I don't think that we're going to be able to get his video and audio worked out, but I was speaking with him on the phone earlier today, and whenever I was planning out this show and trying to put up the lineup together, I originally had thought maybe we'll talk about some of the cases, but then I thought, well, let's just focus on Hayden and let the audience really get to know him instead of just the investigations he carried out. So I had kind of left that off. But in talking to David, the Heaven's Gate cult, whenever David first met Hayden, was the night before the mass suicide that happened out in California. And so David had come over to Hayden's home, and they had dinner and they were speaking, and Hayden showed him some photos and stuff, and he didn't realize that it was Marshall Applewhite. No one knew who he was.
No.
Yes, there you go. Thank you, Kevin. So we had pictures of Marshall Applewhite that Hayden had, and there's Hayden there with Marshall and Bonnie Nettles and with Brad Steiger. And I'm not sure if this was in the original headquarter office for the International UFO Bureau. I know there's one of them sitting on the couch when they took the lie detector test at the International UFO Bureau. And some of that lie detector test, we did put up the results on the website.
Right.
So people can go on and look at that, but I know there's so much more. And I do have the Inside Heaven's Gate, which is the one that Hayden and Brad Steiger wrote together. So anyways, so the night before, that's when David Farris had gone over, met up with Hayden, and then he had called him the following day and spoke with his wife, and she said, honey, he's out on an airplane going to California because there was that mass suicide from that man he was showing you the picture of. So that's when he realized, oh my goodness, this is a huge case, and this is who Hayden's been talking to for the last several years.
Yeah, and it was very interesting. The Halebot comic is what was coming by, and he really believed, Mr. Applewhite believed that was going to be a UFO, something like maybe people are talking about the 3-Eye Atlas right now,
Yes.
But, oh, hey there, David, are you back? Maybe not. But anyway, So I thought it was really interesting that we're talking about that now, since we have that 3-Eye Atlas out there, and it's just such an interesting, amalgamation of what it's made up of and that kind of thing. Of course, back in that day, as you can see, all this talk about the 3-Eye Atlas, they were doing the same thing about Halebot at that time. And this is what caused these people to seal their doom, actually, because they believed that was going to happen. It's really sad that things like this can happen. And this is a great learning tool for all of us in ufology to take a good look at. Be careful when somebody gets into this type of mode. And thank God that Hayden noticed it And, he backed away from Applewhite because
Right.
he did not want to be a part of any of this. Although Applewhite was quite the salesman, wasn't he? Because he was constantly trying to sell this. If you look at him, he looks a little disturbed, mentally disturbed. And I think that should have been the first red flag. But back in that day, it was different. It was very, very different. And people were able to believe stories that weren't true because they had nothing to compare things to. We have the blessing now of science, and we know what's going on and what things are made of. Like Dr. Greg had pointed out, 3-Eye Atlas, all the different amalgamations that it has, we know it's probably not extraterrestrial, So anyway, I'm hoping that people don't judge Hayden for looking into that, because that was the story of the day. And
yeah, they had shown up to the office out here in Oklahoma City and just said, hey, we're interested in extraterrestrials. We believe we are them. And he just started following the story, and they actually came to Hayden several times.
Yes.
So he didn't turn them away, but he wasn't also endorsing what they were saying either. He did say that he had a couple of weird instances with run-ins with them. But they had, I've read through the book, I've read through the archives. Some of their beliefs are based on Christianity. Some of their beliefs are more New Age, and some of them are just very out there. And I've listened to the tapes that haven't been released of some of the cult members that were saying goodbye, and they were very happy. They were looking forward to this.
They believed in what
the ones that I've heard.
Right.
And so it was just a very sad day. I know that Hayden did mention in one of the interviews I've seen that he knew instantly whenever he heard about the mass suicide. He said it's got to be Applewhite. And so he was fearful that it was leading towards that at the time. Well,
and one thing I'd like to point out for people listening, if ever, like in Jonestown, if you have to drink something or eat something poisonous, that's your red flag. That's not something that's coming to get you. That's someone killing you so that they can benefit somehow. I never really have figured out what Applewhite's, what he gleaned from all of this.
He truly believed it. I mean, Teri, they passed the lie detectors, him and Bonnie Noodles both.
Right.
They believed what they were saying. I have no doubt about that. And so, being charismatic, they were very convincing to some people. And it's weird to watch the news media and reports of the mass suicide afterwards. All of the talking heads were worried about the internet. That's whenever we were doing the archiving, we sat here and we had to watch the whole thing because it was on VHS tape. So you had to watch it all while you're getting it transferred over to digital. But that was the main thing that stood out, is they were saying, where is this internet going to be going? And look at the crazy ideas that are going to be able to be I can't say the word, spread out, proliferated throughout all of humanity that has access to this internet. And how are we going to control that? That's what the news was looking at, was the dangers of the internet. And we know that several that were in that cult were computer programmers. They were very intelligent people, and they were using their skills to be able to spread their message. It's kind of interesting to see where we're at all these years later.
Just for people today, don't believe anybody that has to provide a death sentence on your life and your children's life. It was unbelievably sad. If something were coming, it would come. It wouldn't be something that you'd have to kill yourself to be a part of. That just wouldn't settle right mentally with with most people. So, and I always have compared it to Jonestown. You know, you get somebody that's not mentally sound, and they engage all these other people to believe them because they have that charismatic personality. We have to be aware of these things and really careful, because there are a lot of different people out there. And thank God Hayden had the wherewithal to see that where they were going wasn't where he was going. You know, he was
Absolutely.
scientifically looking at everything, and drinking that Kool-Aid wasn't about science. That was about manipulation. And he saw that, and obviously backed away from it. But like you said, Mindy, a lot of strange things do happen, and did happen, because we heard Hayden speak about people just disappeared. You know, he was talking to them, he turned around, he turned back, and they were gone.
Right.
And very strange, anomalous things can happen, you know, when you're engaging yourself in the depths of this kind of high strangeness. A lot of really strange things can happen.
You get one person
something-
like that leading a group into mass psychosis.
Right.
You
Exactly.
know,
That's something we have to be aware of as researchers.
Yes.
Whenever people take on almost religious beliefs
Right.
surrounding UFOs,
That's right.
not to play into that.
Right.
And I know that there is some crossover. It's something to be aware of, and make sure that we're not seeing any signs that could lead to an ending, much like what happened with Heaven's Gate.
Right.
It's a sad reminder. So let's change gears. We got about
Yeah,
20
sure.
minutes. Let's go over to more happier things. So Kevin, we'll roll the next clip.
Yeah.
Today, it's kind of in the industry, after a couple of movies, The Men in Black, that there were individuals going around silencing people that were UFO researchers and threatening them with court action to, stay away from it. I had experience while in high school with one of these Men in Black. There were two gentlemen in the living room with my mother. And mother got up, and they showed me a gold badge and said, would I have a seat? They would like to talk with me. Mr. Hewes, you've recently received some photos of the back side of the moon. How did you get those, and what was your interest in obtaining those photographs? And I kind of looked at my mother and thought, well, I got them very simply. I wrote the Academy of Sciences in Russia and asked for a copy from the Zond 3 Around the Moon photographic session. I brought out what I'd got. Well, they found about it because it came through the Postal Service. So the Postal Department in this area notified them that there was mail coming from the Soviet Union.
Wow.
This cracks me up.
that's my favorite of his stories.
Yeah.
So this was the beginnings of the International UFO Bureau. This is where the spark was lit, and the run-in with the Men in Black really kind of propelled him forward to just go full force into UFOs. He was 13 at the time. So,
His ambition is
Can't even
inspiring.
imagine.
yeah, well, and he's writing to the premier of Russia at 13 years old. I can't imagine my children. My children are in their late teens. If I had the FBI knocking at my door going,
Right.
why are you getting mail from Russia and during the height of the Cold War? So they showed a little bit of this book in there. This is actually what they sent him. Let me back it up some.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and it actually has, it's all in Russian, and I've used some of my Google Lens on it to translate some, but there's actually pictures in here of the backside of the moon.
Right.
And so this was back in the early 1950s. So here he is, a 13-year-old kid in Oklahoma, receiving this book from Russia, from the premier of Russia.
Oh,
and
Lord.
getting that knock on the door.
Yes, and I think that same, I guess, gusto is being carried on with all of us because we keep pursuing and going after and digging, and I think we are doing him justice by carrying forth this scientific just vigor to get the
Yes.
truth out, and it's just refreshing knowing that he was like that, you know.
Well, he wrote to people all the time. Melissa, I know you've seen several
See a lot of, yeah.
embassies and
Yeah.
astronauts.
Mhm.
So there's so many. I think I probably read 60%, and then I had to hurry up and get this rolling so the public can see it. But there's quite a few, and it's impressive how many actually wrote back.
Right.
Yeah. He was proud of the ones that wrote back and said, "Don't want to have anything to do with you. Don't have anything to say about
Yeah,
UFOs."
there's definitely those in there too.
Yeah, and people didn't realize probably that they were talking to a kid, but so half of them just tell him to buzz off. They
Yeah.
don't have anything to say to him, and he would publish this in his newsletter and say, "Well, I got a response," and it's like, don't want to talk to you. Get lost. He's like, but it has such and such his name on it. And he was very proud of it. So he carried that throughout his career where he just wrote to all kinds of people and said, "What do you think about UFOs?"
Right.
And I was, as I was going through it, it was one of those things where it seems like a lost art because now we'd send off an email. And it's so, it's not personal.
No.
We would not have those signatures. We would not have those letterheads that
Right.
he was receiving back in that time. Now it's all just going to be like, well, I got an email from them and, or they ignored my email.
Right.
Yeah.
He was a groundbreaker in every way because, he did put his ideas on paper, what he was thinking, and Wright-Patterson. I mean, all kinds of people got back with him. I mean, even Jimmy Carter, a president, a sitting president that saw a UFO. There's a reason that they chose him. And I believe he was like Mensa, he was just very, very intelligent. And
What's funny, Teri?
Yes.
I was going to say, in all of his archives, there were some of his personal effects mixed in. And so I would put those to the side. But one of the things I thought was so cute was his elementary school report cards. And his teachers were like, "Hayden will not sit still." We're still struggling a little bit with him. I think his spelling was bad. And, they were all so sweet and encouraging, but you could tell that he was a thinker. He wanted to be doing things. And it was just funny to imagine him in an elementary setting and then not where he just started writing to leaders of countries.
Right.
I guess no one told him he couldn't.
Exactly. And we shouldn't do that with our children either. We should let them be who they want to be, or who they should be, or who God created them to be. But it's just amazing how he had such dedication, and very proud of him.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next clip, Melissa. Go ahead.
There was such a series of sightings around the United States and overseas that the government looked into in the late 40s, these UFOs, unidentified flying objects. So to find out what they were, they set up a series of projects. No one knew anything about the project, so I wrote the Pentagon and asked them, could I visit the project? To my surprise, I received clearance, went to Dayton, Ohio, Wright-Patt Air Force Base, where it was headquartered. At that point, I asked approximately 200 questions, received the cooperation of Tech Sergeant David Moody and Major Hector Quintanilla, that were head of the project at the time, and started a working relationship with the government. But what intrigued me the most was It was a separate building on the base, enclosed by a fence, was pink, and it had the name or the initials FTD in 2-foot-high letters on the front of the building, which I later found out meant Foreign Technology Division. It's a 21-hour ride in a bus. I rode the bus up, I rode the bus back, but coming back, what a coincidence. One of the secretaries on Wright-Patterson was coming to Oklahoma City. About halfway back, she started asking, what did I find? What did, this or that. So it was kind of a debriefing. So when we arrived, she went out, walked across, got in a blue limousine with the United States Air Force on the side, and I'm sure went right to Tinker and flew right back to Wright-Pat. So they were interested in what my opinions, but after that time, it must have been favorable because it began a good working relationship with the agencies. There was such a series of sightings around the United States.
Oh, there we go. It played twice. Can you believe that? He wrote to the Pentagon.
I know, that's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
He didn't let anything hold him back. He was just writing to everybody. So,
Yes.
the fact that they invited him to Wright-Pat.
Right.
That had to have bbeen such a significant point in his journey with all of this.
Right. Well, and the fact that, the Foreign Technology Division was interested in what he had to say. I mean, that says volumes, total volumes, about who he was and what they thought he knew and what they knew he knew and what he was finding out. And I really believe he was like a pilgrim in this, in that we're talking about the 50s. Nobody, not any of the men who had experiences or anything, no one was talking about this. This child was bringing forth all these. He said he asked 200 questions. What child do you know that can even ask the Pentagon 200 questions?
I think it's amazing that they went through and actually answered all 200 of his questions.
I think that he was a little bit older. He wasn't still a child at that time, Teri. He was a little bit
17,
older.
maybe 20, something like that.
Yeah.
Old. Yeah.
But still, compared to us, he's a child at that point.
Well, to me, yeah.
I'm sure he was giddy going up there. And I know we have the full video on our website. So we're just pulling little clips from it. So people can go back and watch. It's like a 15-minute video in total. But he did talk about them showing him some photos and like, well, you've seen these photos. You haven't seen these. And if you do see these, no, you didn't. So they very much were trying to work on curating what he was releasing because he had amassed a massive following. He had over 1 million listeners to his radio show and millions that subscribed to his newsletters. And he was on all kinds of TV shows and radio programs, and he was everywhere. And it's amazing that people today don't know him as one of the founding fathers of ufology or one of the UFO greats. He was so humble, and he just put the information out and went on to the next instead of saying, "I'm Hayden Hewes."
Right.
He never made a big to-do of himself. It was always about the information. And when we came across all of his archives, and his widow Bonnie was gracious enough to give them to me so that I could put them out there.
Total divine appointment.
Treasure trove. It is.
It is. Well, hearing Hayden introduce the original IUFOB in his own words, what stands out the most about his early vision is what we're wondering. Go ahead and play this clip for us, Kevin.
So then the more I thought about Wright-Patterson, which I'd gone to in 64, and this was 71. They shared with me their files. Other people were not allowed in. even congressmen, senators. Now, if I get up and say there's a censorship of information, all they have to say is, we allowed Mr. Hewes the courtesy of visiting our offices and sharing with him any information he requested. Oh, they showed me this file, but did they show me that file?
Yeah, he had his eye on everything. He had his finger on the pulse, and it was great. But yeah, this is so neat to see him up in the previous clips talk about the International UFO Bureau and, you know, how he came up with that and, you know, what it still means to us today. You know, this is really interesting stuff. And I just thank our viewers for watching and being, you know, here with us to discuss this. If you have any questions that you'd like us to address, please put them in our comments and we sure will. But Mindy, there's another clip if we still have enough time.
Hold on. I want to address that last clip.
Sure.
Because the fact that he said, they showed me this, but did they show me that? He already had in mind. So he said that was in 64. So he,
or 70, yeah. Mm-hmm.
and even years later, they were saying, "Oh, well, we invited you out." So he always kept that in the back of his mind. I'm going to pay for this. Yes, they're inviting me in. They're showing me things. But now they can also kind of control the narrative and say, well, we invited him. We showed him everything we had. You know, we don't know what he's talking about. So it's interesting. He was constantly thinking and watching that because they could bend it and use that narrative to their benefit. So, yeah, let's go ahead and see what the next clip holds.
Yeah.
I don't really have an ending to the story yet as to what my years of research will uncover or lead to, but it's been a very interesting journey with what I find, the people involved with, the people it's brought me in contact with. So it's interesting to see how opinions change, and I'm anxious to have a conclusion to the book or whatever comes out of it. And I've never tried to push or prove any one theory. I just like to get people to approach the subject with an open mind because science changes. It's different. We've learned so much about our system. One of those things, we're now actually going and landing on Mars. It's interesting to note that in the early century part, they thought there were canals on Mars by the telescopes that people would see. And NASA released not too long ago, they'd found rivers of water underground on Mars. So it turns out apparently they were. And I quit being shocked or surprised. But that curiosity there is just, I've been unable to quench my thirst for what I could learn about it. There's still so much to learn, and that fascinates me, and who's going to bring me a piece to the puzzle?
We're so honored to be a part of carrying on his legacy.
Yes. Right. Gosh, isn't that something? His curiosity is why we're all here and what has brought us to this place. And it's our passion and curiosity that keeps this going. So yeah. Absolutely.
We're in volume 2, IUFOB volume 2. I wonder what he would think. I see a question here from P. Bishop. Were any of his files confiscated? Do you know? So let's approach that. Some of the files were unfortunately burned in a house fire in the late 80s. And so we know that some of those are missing. One thing that we do have still, and this was one of the things I was hoping to talk to David Farris about, is the original Project Grudge. You can see it's metal bound loose leaf. This came straight from Wright Pat, and it has those addendums in it that have never been revealed to the public. I know that the Project Grudge in whole has been released, I believe through New Fork. And then when I went back and looked through it, it does not have these addendums in there. So these are actually taped in. I don't know if this is the original or it's one of the originals. And I don't know how he came to possess that. If that was maybe during his visit to White Pat.
Right.
So we do still have quite a bit of it intact. In 2023 is when we went out to retrieve all of the files. And Kevin, I believe I sent you a picture of that. It was me and Dustin Hendricks, who is our director of credentialed reports and disclosures. And you can see all the boxes there in the back of his car. So him being a police officer, I took him with me, said, come on, let's just go load them up. So we got the majority of the files that day. The rest of them remain in possession of someone who was planning to use them for other purposes.
Right.
The widow has requested that all of the stuff be returned to the Bureau and stay together. But as of now, we have not recovered those. One of the other things that needs to be recovered, and this is a big mystery that I'd like to put to the audience, the original Jimmy Carter report. There is a copy of it hanging in the Jimmy Carter Presidential Library. And the original, we don't know what happened to it. It could be in the hands of this person who had gone in and cleaned out Hayden's office after his passing against the wishes of his widow. We've asked, and they have said that they do not have it. The other possibility is there is things in the archives that speak to him loaning it to a production company. I won't put the name out there, but I contacted them and they said, we've moved offices so many times, we don't know. We don't know.
Please.
We don't know if we would have it.
Yeah.
So if anyone out there has any ideas about where the original Jimmy Carter report is, we would like to recover that and actually give it to the Jimmy Carter Presidential Library so it will not be lost to history again. The replica that they have hanging in the library right now, I'd like to see that go to Hayden's widow. That's how it really should go. We do have copies of the original handwritten report, but that's one it hurts me. It hurts me that it's lost to time. Somebody out there has it. It's in somebody's basement somewhere. We know that it was not in the archives that got burned in the 80s.
Right.
So it survived somewhere. So maybe you could find it. So wonderful question. Thank you.
Yes. So I guess, Melissa, maybe we can get another one in there real quick.
Well, I think that's the rest of the clips that we have.
We're
Is that
done.
all the clips?
Yeah.
I show that there's another clip.
I think you're behind, Teri.
Yeah, you actually skipped up 2 of them.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Well, there you go then.
Yep. Kevin said, nope.
Oh, okay. All right.
We're right at an hour. So
Yeah.
I know we have questions for David. Maybe we can look at getting him on again at a future time, because I would really like to hear his insight and his stories of just watching Hayden do his thing back in the day whenever he was out investigating. I know the 1965 flap, Hayden was actually out there at the radio broadcast tower with the highway patrol and everybody watching these UFOs that were breaking out over Oklahoma City back July 31st through August 2nd of 1965. And so he had firsthand account of that. And I mean, there's so much that we could have learned from David. So David, we'll get you back on. And I apologize to the audience that we had all these technical difficulties. We were trying to get them lined out before we had to go live, but it didn't happen. And sometimes that's how things roll with having a live broadcast. So, but ladies, thank you so much. I'm so glad that we actually got to spend the time and discuss and hear Hayden's words from his own mouth.
Right.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we need to get his name out there more. He deserves to be known.
That's right.
Yep.
He's
Yeah.
a- Mhm.
Always try to keep him at the forefront of everything we're doing, and
Yes.
hopefully he's proud of us for what we're doing today. I know this podcast may not, this episode may not be indicative with the technical difficulties, but everything we're doing at the Bureau, I always try to keep him at the forefront. So, Teri, who are we having next week on the show?
Well, the Navajo Rangers, and this is really going to be exciting. Michelle Miners, Jonathan Dover, and Stanley Milford Jr. will be with us next week. That's Wednesday, November the 12th at 7 p.m. Central Time. So please join us. We'll be talking about ancient wisdom and modern evidence with the Native Paranormal Rangers. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, and I hope that you have enjoyed it as much as we have. And we will certainly try to get David back on when things are more copacetic with our streaming, or his streaming, I should say. It wasn't us, it was his streaming, but maybe we can work with him and help him out. So thank you so much, y'all.
Yeah, as always, thanks for joining us here on the Bureau. Visit internationalUFObureau.com and visit us on our socials to stay connected. Until next time, stay curious, stay courageous, and never stop demanding the truth.
Thank you for joining us today on the Bureau. For exclusive content, follow the International UFO Bureau on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. From yesterday's sightings to tomorrow's revelations, be sure to tune in next time right here only on